All right, welcome to the podcast. Been a bit of a long time coming since we met.
It has.
Why don't you quickly introduce yourself to the crowd and we'll go from there.
Hi, I'm JAZZ THORNTON and I am a TikToker / advocate. I hate saying I'm a TikToker. I'm more than a TikToker. I'm an advocate, I'm an author, and I'm a TikToker.
I love it. You're so much more than a TikToker. Well, let's hope we can develop that title in this podcast a bit, because I know you are. We've spoken, and as I said off camera, when I met you in Blenheim, it was really cool to watch like the crowd around you and like the support you had from that team. And like I hadn't really seen that from New Zealand creators before. And I'd met lots of big New Zealand creators and you walk around with them and yeah, occasionally like, oh, it's the TikTok guy. But yours is like Justin Bieber walking through, right? Like it was crazy. And so I'd like to know, like, where did this brand start? And as we said off camera, it wasn't TikTok. So where was it started and how's that journey been?
I mean, this whole kind of thing of being, I would say, quite mobbed in public has been relatively new in the way that, not new, but like kind of ever since we came out of that first lockdown, it just went nuts. But I've been in kind of the public eye or doing a lot of this stuff for a lot longer than way before TikTok existed.
Before TikTok,
and people kind of knew me within the mental health space. So I had got my first ever series and was directing a series, and there was the feature documentary film that was created. I was filmed for 2.5 years for that.
Crazy.
Again, well before TikTok existed, and had already signed my first book deal as well. So a lot of that had really come from the fact that right now mental health is topical. People are now sharing their stories, and that was not a thing when we started. This wasn't a bandwagon we jumped on. It wasn't like oh, this is cool and like might get traction at all. Like it was just me and my co-founder Jen being like, no one's talking about this. We really struggled, and how can we help people? And so that's kind of where it started, and we did like little bits of media here and there. I remember our first ever, I think it was like a New Zealand Herald, but like a local New Zealand Herald article that was done, and being like, whoa, this is insane. And that would have been 2017.
Okay.
So like a good kind of couple years before TikTok.
Can I just butt in there, because I still want you to carry on, but I just want to know, like, with those things like the doco and like, how did you get to that point? Like, how did you get that to happen? Because that's not easy.
I didn't want that to happen.
Interesting.
Basically, I was in film school at the time, and I went there to learn how to tell stories that matter.
Cool.
So within the first I think it was maybe like about the first month, I directed my first ever video, and it was called Dear Suicidal Me. And again, this was well before the viralness of TikTok. We posted this video up on Facebook, and it got shared like across these massive pages and had 48 million views very quickly, and then got up to 80 million.
Wow.
And that was like insane. The whole thing was filmed from like film school students, and now I look back at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so terrible quality. Like, but after that, I ended up getting invited to pitch a show idea at this thing called Dock Edge. And I was the only student they had taken. I was the youngest person they'd ever taken. And it's basically like this whole industry panel of broadcasters, producers, funders. And I was the most inexperienced person there. And I was so scared. The day before, I tried to pull out. I was like, I can't, I'm going to fall on my face. I'm so scared, like all of that. And my lecturer wouldn't let me. And I ended up being the last person to pitch that day. I think there was like maybe 40 people that pitched their show ideas. And I had listened to all of the feedback, and I scrapped my entire pitch and wrote down 3 bullet points on a piece of paper, got up and pitched. And then that day I became the youngest ever person to win Dock Edge.
Amazing.
And so that's kind of where it started. So my series got picked up from that. Cool. But on that panel, there was the producers that picked it up was like, there's a feature film in this. And at first I was like, the longest thing I've directed is 8 minutes. Like, I can't direct a feature film. And they were like, no, Jazz, you're not directing it. We think the film is about you. To which I was like, no, I'm here to direct. And they were like, no, like, this journey you're going on, the story you're telling, which was the story of a girl that I lost to suicide.
Yeah.
And our stories were so parallel, and I was going to be trying to tell her story, and they were like, there's gonna like, it's really, if anyone wants to know my journey into advocacy and like you said, my journey into the brand, that film is it. Like it literally captures the start of it. And then I guess after Jessica's Tree came out, it won 14 awards around the world. It won gold at New York Film Festival. And then book deals were done. But it was literally from that one day that I nearly tried to pull out of.
Sliding door moment.
Changed everything. Yeah.
That's crazy that it's crazy to think like now, like meeting you and the confidence and like the thing that you've got and like the brand that people see when they see you, right? To think back then, what, 6 years ago? Not that long ago.
Yeah, 2017.
It's not that long ago to think you're going to pull out of just like the things that you've done now, to think you're going to pull out of that, which is nothing compared to what you've done now, but it was the first.
I was so nervous, but also at the time, which I don't think a lot of people know, is that kind of during that time and all the way up until like after Girl on the Bridge was released, after about around the time Girl on the Bridge was released, I was so broke.
Yeah.
Like I was taking food home from shoots because I didn't have money to eat. Like it was not, back then it wasn't like a monetizing brand, and I was never in it for that, and I'm still not in it for that.
Yeah, of course.
But it was not what people kind of assumed that it was.
It's like the writers' strikes at the moment, right? Like how they're like, we have 3 jobs. Yeah. You know, it's only glamorous when you're at the peak. Yeah. And that's it, right? Yeah. Which is pretty crazy to hear. Yeah. So tell me when the movies and all the stuff started coming out and, you know, you won all these awards and things, what was that like? Like what, because that must have been a world change for you almost overnight.
It was. It was wild. I think ever since that first ever viral video that I did, it's never really stopped. Yeah. And I think that's also like I've got ADHD and my impulsivity of creative ideas is very fast. And so I would be like, oh, do this. Yeah. So it was really weird. And it was really hard because back then, like I said, it wasn't something people were talking about. And being some of the first, especially at that point, like young females, there was a lot of backlash and there was a lot of middle-aged people that were commenting horrific things and it was just it was a lot. And then you kind of slowly, because at that point I was still very reachable to the people who knew my story, so young people will be reaching out all the time, and I was so okay with that because I'm like, I need to help as much as I possibly can. But it got to the point I was in hospital every single night with people that I didn't know, and I was staying up for hours on end. I wasn't sleeping because I was like, I have to save these people. To which I then realized now, and kind of again through the whole process of the Girl on the Bridge, that you can't save anyone. No. And thankfully, I'm so thankful I learned that journey before I got on TikTok. Yeah.
How did you learn that? Because that's massive. Because how old were you at the time?
22.
Yeah, like that is some epic learning for a 22-year-old. Like I look at the guys and think, that's some heavy shit at that age. How did that happen? How did you get that clarity at that age? It seems insane.
Well, I don't think it definitely wasn't overnight clarity. No, and I didn't even realize that it was going to be like, it's one of the main threads of the film, which I didn't know. Like, I had no say in the edit. I had nothing. I was just being filmed. Yeah. And it was really the process of believing that I should have been able to save the girl who had passed away was a really, really big thing for me. Yeah. And so I was trying so hard to just save everyone. Yeah. But I remember specifically having a conversation with a woman who knows me very well, and she was just like, I was at the point, I'm at the hospital every night and doing all these things, and she's like, Jazz, you have to choose if you are going to help the one or the like hundreds of thousands or millions. Like you cannot do both. Yeah. And she was like, you can go to the hospital every night and like do these for sure. But if you're doing that, you cannot focus on helping the millions that your story has the ability to reach. Like you have to choose. And I was like, I can't, like, in my mind at that time, I couldn't justify how I could get up on a stage and share these stories and then not be the person at the hospital. But she was like, you literally can't do that. And if you want to do that, go train to be a counselor. But that's what's putting you in the superhero mindset of I have to be the one to save everyone. But you literally don't have the ability to. Like you are a single piece in the puzzle. And that's really humbling to hear. And being like, actually, I can't. Like,
Yeah.
my job is to present hope and
Yeah.
say, hey, there's possibilities for change.
Yeah.
There are psychologists, there are counselors, there are communities of people that can wrap around and are different parts of the puzzle. And I think learning that was massive, because I don't think it's something you even see a lot in, like, a lot of kind of, I guess some of the first mental health advocates or things like that. It was still very much like, I'm the only person that can do anything. And it's just not.
It's just
not the case.
Yeah.
Like, you're such a small piece, and like, here is hope.
Yeah.
It's a community effort.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that when we spoke. We talked about some people we don't have to talk about on camera, but like, we were talking about like people who go out and say, I'm the only one doing this. Everyone help me, help me. Why aren't you helping me? I'm the only one doing it, which is crazy, because like, there is no way in the world that like someone has an idea and they're the only one who has it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not possible. No. For those people that like are out there at the start of their journey trying to do this, and if they're listening and things like that, like, how do you think you can help? Or what would you say to those people who are trying to be these mental health advocates? They don't realize all the other support. They don't know what you know now. How do they get to that point without the exposure you've had? Like, what would you say to them now?
I think the biggest thing is you have to always and forever know your why.
Yeah.
I get tagged in a lot of TikToks of people being like, I want to share my story with millions of people, and they're getting really disheartened when their video gets 1,000 views. And it's, for me, it was never about millions of people. It was about like, if this story can impact one person, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that what social media does is it comes this like perception of the only way to help people is to go viral, and it's not. And if you start to sway that way, it becomes more about you than it does about the people you're trying to help. And I think that's why knowing your why, knowing who else is in the space and what they're doing, and joining forces with people. And I think there's so many people that are starting new organizations and stuff, which is great. But if it's copy paste replica of something else, you're better to put your backing behind something that's working, and that kind of thing. But I do think like, to be able to be a mental health advocate doesn't mean that you have to have a platform. No. Mental health advocacy starts with your friends and family. It starts by shutting down conversations about, I apologize for saying this, but about calling people an attention seeker, pulling people up on that. So that's kind of, I think you can't call yourself a mental health advocate only when you have X amount of followers. You choose to be it in your everyday life. And then that just takes different forms.
I love that, because it's the same message I have in the Māori and Pacifica space. Like, when I first started this business, I was seeing a lot of like, especially with COVID, right? Māori and Pacifica businesses like really struggling. Like, now look, I understand it's a very different thing to what you talk about, but it's the same thing. Like, people struggling, right? People struggling with economy or business or whatever. And I remember we started the Ninja Network, and it went on to do lots of good stuff, but the reason I got tired and sort of gave it away and gave it to someone else is I was like, I'm actually still dividing. Like, that was the main reason I had, is like, there's all these other people out there doing good shit, and I'm dividing us up even further by making my own lane. And so the people I gave it to already had some stuff, and they were trying to consolidate networks and things like that. But I sort of said, like, all I'm doing is pulling you out of these other groups. I'm fracturing us. And actually the whole point of the group was to unite Māori and Pacifica people, and all I'm doing is dividing us even further by having our own version of something everyone else is doing. So I quite like that approach that you take, because it's quite pertinent for me as well. Okay, so awards came, that crazy ride that happened, TikTok. Social media. I mean, you had Facebook already go off, which is crazy. 80 million on Facebook is nuts. But like, the TikTok journey, because that's. Would you say? Hang on, let me make sure I haven't skipped ahead. After the awards, after the docos, what was next in terms of brand building? I know you didn't think of it like this, but that is what happened. Yeah. What was next? Was it TikTok?
It was TikTok.
It was TikTok. Cool.
Well,
I didn't skip ahead.
TikTok came out. Yeah. Well, I got TikTok.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of that first lockdown.
Cool. Yeah.
I think as majority of the population did.
Yeah.
And this was, I had written the book, and the movie had been filmed, but neither of them had come out yet.
Okay, got it.
So my first book, Stop Surviving, Start Fighting, was literally just about to come out.
Cool.
And I got on TikTok. I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I had to get Dr. Steph, who's a big part of my story. People who follow me will know her. Her kids were trying to explain to me, like, how to make TikTok work. And I remember, I think it was like my third video went viral, and but at that point it was like I got like 100,000 views, and I was like, what is this? And it was a video of my freaking like the sunrise out of my New York hotel room with the sound that was like New York, and I posted that, and it freaking went nuts, and I was like, this is so weird. And then I realized that TikTok could really be an extension of what I already do, which is hope-filled storytelling. Everything that I do is in hope-filled storytelling. So the next video that went absolutely, like this went nuts for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, shit.
Was to the song I'm a Survivor, and it was basically like me standing there and then being like boom, and then it was basically I survived, and then these things, and then that I'm a mental health advocate now. And it started to blow up, but then it fell on the gamer side of TikTok. And when I say hundreds of thousands, I mean hundreds of thousands of gamers were like duetting my video with how they survived these like dragons or like things in the games, and it went nuts. Like that video got millions of views, but the gamer community, and it was getting posted on like these like Instagram, real dark like Instagram pages, and I was like, I'm so confused, and people were being so mean, but it was the start of blowing up my page. Crazy. But that was my first like
that's
actual
so funny.
viral one.
I mean, it's not funny, but it's so funny.
It's funny.
It's crack up.
I was like, how did like the fact that the gamers are the ones that
blew you up.
That blew me up in that regard was so funny. And they were so mean, but also I just had to laugh at them.
What else can you do?
I know. Yeah. It was so funny.
That is so funny. Like that's the thing I crack up about TikTok is just like once something starts, you can't stop it.
No.
And so like gamers jumping on something like that, there was no way to stop that. And then as soon as they see a few people doing it, it's on. Yeah. It's like who can do it the fastest.
Yeah, but it was the part that I found really concerning though about it was seeing like 11-year-olds that were duetting it, but a lot of their stuff was like go kill yourself. And I was like, these young gamers are learning off these older gamers, and like what is
yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's pretty messed up, because they're just so young, they have no idea. They don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah,
that's mental. Okay, and then so that happened.
Yeah.
How was that for you at the time? Like you were because we just talked about you came to quite a good place by the end of it. So you were in a pretty good spot when you saw all of that. Like how did you feel when you were seeing that stuff?
I mean, I was used to getting the hate comments because I had been in the media. Yeah. And I remember there was like one time it was really bad. I think it's in the film, but they made this real sensationalized headline about the film that was like, JAZZ THORNTON tried to kill herself 14 times and now stars in documentary or stars in movie. And the comments were just horrific. Like literally people being like, JAZZ, it's actual suicide coming to a theater near you, and just like really mean stuff. And so because of that, I'd been used to it.
Yeah.
But to the level of that video, I had never seen before. And it was no longer just like New Zealanders on a news article comment section. It was worldwide, and it was nuts. I actually ended up turning off the comments on that video because I just was like, this is a lot. I was okay. But it was very new. And I was like, I don't know what's going on.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same. Like I've never really cared about comments and stuff like that. But like every once in a while I'll just be in a shit mood. Like there'll be, I'm hangry or whatever it might be. And comments come through and then I'll just, I'm like, fucking it. The thing will go off in my head. That's normal. But then, and sometimes I'll comment and Ash will tell me off and she'll be like, stop commenting shit like that, Sam. You're not allowed to comment like that. But like that's a hard thing to stop, right? Like when your brain just goes. And so your thing was to just turn off comments, or how did you stop yourself from maybe replying the wrong way or saying things, or you just didn't have that thought?
I definitely had to stop myself a few times from commenting, but also I'm never the person who's going to comment a mean thing anyway. So like I'm very confident in that because it's literally just who I am.
Cool.
But yeah, I think turning comments off was because it just got so overwhelming and it would not stop. And because when someone comments on it, it reboosts the video, right? So like it would be like a year later and it's still going nuts. And so turning that off was more like a thing of just stop seeing this video.
Yeah, put it to bed.
Yeah, just shush. Yeah, but I think now, like, I still sometimes will reply to comments every now and then, especially like recently. I had my very first kind of ever public breakup, public relationship, and then public breakup, which was wild.
Yeah.
And people were just commenting the most insane things, but being really like, we deserve to know everything, blah, blah. And that was the time that I was just like, actually, no, you have no idea what has happened. And I already share so much of my life with you publicly. You don't have...
Right.
Yeah, you don't have the right to know everything.
Yeah.
Because I already put out like 90% of my life to the world. Let me have 10%.
Yeah. I remember because that kind of happened just before we met, right? Like not long before we met. And I remember obviously meeting you, and then your content was getting served to me. And I remember reading those comments thinking, this is fucked. Like the things commenting about your relationship, some of the shit, I was like, how do people think
I was forced to post about it because we had been kind of, there was like a lot of stuff going on, and we had kind of been on the rocks for a while. And that whole time that we're on the rocks, people are commenting all the time. And then it started to be rumored that we'd broken up before we had broken up. And then when we did break up, people were literally coming up to me on the street, like 10, 15 people a day, asking me to my face if I'm still with him. And I was like, this is like, I don't even have the opportunity. And at that point, I had to just be like, like I'm not going to tell some random people no, and then they go and bloody break the internet with it. But it was just so, that's what to me made me realize how much of my privacy I had lost, that people had it in them to just come up to you and be like, you and your boyfriend still together?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was like, he wasn't even in the other public eye before he started dating me. Poor dude. Yeah. And then the comments just kept going. And then people were like, I can't watch her anymore knowing that they've broken up. And I'm like, you watched me beforehand. He literally doesn't have any social media that he really uses.
The shit people say, it's crazy.
So insane.
It is nuts that way. Like once you decide to have that life in the public eye, that's it. You can't take it back. The genie's out. Like you got to go with it. With that, as this TikTok rise, like how did you cope? I mean, it wasn't just a TikTok. Obviously, there's all the other stuff, but obviously TikTok put gasoline on it all. Yeah. How has that journey been for you in starting to accept that? Like, has there been moments where you're just like, fuck this? Or like, plenty. Okay, so
there's been moments, and my close friends will be like, there's been moments where I was like, if I could wave a magic wand and go back to just being a normal person, I would. Yeah. And that's just because like I've had people turn up to my house. I've had like I can't go out in public anymore without being stopped. And that's I absolutely don't mind. I love meeting everyone and it's so great. Yeah. But when I'm by myself, and it's happened a few times when I've been at a mall and not realized that like it was a half day at school or something, and I got fully like I couldn't get out. Shit. And there was like 100, 200 kids just surrounding me. And you saw it in Blenheim.
Mental.
And when you're by yourself, I was like, now I won't really go out by myself because I am so anxious. Yeah. And I don't think I've had that kind of anxiety like in my life. Yeah. And I've had a lot of mental health issues. So to have that is a lot. I now naturally like walk with my head down because I'm so like, But so it's definitely that side of it has been really difficult to come to terms with. But then it's every time that I'm like, I'd wave a magic wand and make it disappear. I wouldn't because I'm like, man, every single time someone comes up to me and shows me their I am sober app or they've showed me that they've found hope in this and I've chose to be here is so like that for me. I'm like, that's why. Yeah. And I will keep doing it because of that one person and that one story. Yeah. So as much as it can be really, really, really hard, it's the most rewarding thing.
It is, right? Yeah. And I mean, we're not even at the same level as you, but even just like us recently, like our video of Joni trying to convince me to propose to Claire, and that one went crazy. Like the amount of emails and messages I get, like on my personal stuff, just going, when are you proposing? When are you proposing? And then so like when we did finally propose to Claire,
did you just say when we finally proposed?
No, when I did. When I did finally propose.
Collectively as an organisation, we proposed to Claire.
When the attention seeker proposed to Claire, I knew that I had to I had to tell people because, it's the same as you. It's not to the same level, but it's the same thing, right? Like people were messaging like, when's this happening, commenting, blah, blah, blah.
And the pressure of that,
right? The pressure of it, right? And so I knew I actually had some ideas of like how I wanted to propose, and I had to can all of them because I was like, nothing I do will live up to the hype. Like nothing will do. And and I can't be bothered with the backlash of that because of people always, the characters we designed is that there's Shrek and Donkey's Joni. Everyone needs to jump and hate on me, and that's fine. And I'm okay to play that, but like I couldn't be bothered dealing with this is my life now. This is actually, I'm not proposing with her for clout. Like I'm proposing to Claire because I want to be with her for the rest of my life, right? So it's what determined me to just do it in a hotel room, just the two of us, so no one else could be there, and then not tell anyone for 4 days to keep that. But I mean, as soon as we told everyone on the Tuesday we got back, like that was it. Like for a week, just swamped. And I remember saying to Claire, like, early on before, I mean, we obviously always have talked about we wanted to be married, so she knew it was happening. But I said to her, like, this stuff is like, we're not going to get let up from this. Like, she's not the attention seeker. Like you will know she's not in all the stuff. And so that it's actually been real hard for her, like, because she's like, Stan, this is my thing. Like, I don't want everyone else to know about my engagement and blah, blah, blah. And so we only want to share so much of it. But it's hard, right? Like you don't really get a choice. Nope. You either do it or you don't do it. And if you don't do it, you don't get all the benefit of doing it. But if you do it, you have to just deal with the ramifications.
And that's really what it is. Yeah. Like even when I first started dating my ex, like people were taking videos of us before I'd announced anything and uploading it to TikTok. And at first I was really annoyed, and then I was like, that's what I've signed up to it, and it is what it is, and that's. And there are so many more benefits that outweigh the bad. Like the fact that I could even go on to Blim and do something like Dancing with the Stars because TikTok, actually, when I initially got cast on Dancing with the Stars, it was the year before.
Interesting.
So my TikTok wasn't as crazy as it was, and I had just won Young New Zealander of the Year. Yeah, so I was on it as Young New Zealander of the Year. And I reckon if I had done it the year before, I probably wouldn't have won. But I was like, the fact I can do things like that is so insane. So cool. It's so fun. I loved it.
Nah, it's so good. I love that. That's such a cool way to think about it too. So on that, like when we say, okay, so TikTok started going off 2020. Tell us that next stage, because like there was obviously TikToks blowing up, but like, Dancing with Stars and all that cast. Like, tell me about that story. Like, how did that even come about?
So I had been with like a social media manager, who kind of saw the potential in me from when I had like 5,000 followers on Instagram. And this was when only Instagram was a thing. And so I think when I had set up TikTok, back then you could choose what your country was. Like it wasn't automatic like it is now. And I had set my location to America because I didn't want people in New Zealand to see me, and I didn't want my friends to see me. And so my account, when it started to blow up in America, and then they took away that ability, and then suddenly all the New Zealanders had me popping up on their page, and I already had this momentum going. So that was like wild in of itself. But it was so nuts. But then kind of after I had won Young New Zealander of the Year, and there was a lot more hype around, like the book had done really well on social media, and I was like a lot of videos were going viral, and it was really cool. And I remember sitting down with my agent and them being like, what do you want to do? And I was like, honestly, like top dream, I really want to do Dancing with the Stars.
That's so
and they
funny.
were like, I love like the thought of it. I was like, I really want to do it. And then within like, I think maybe like 2 weeks, I'd sat down with the person who like creates the show. And he was like, do you know what, like that's a lot, it's an intense thing. And I was like, yes, sign me up. But I didn't know if I had been cast or not, because I have to go through a whole process. And then I got cast, and I was so excited, and I couldn't tell anyone. And then we started rehearsals, and then we shot the commercial. And then the day before it was supposed to get announced, Cindy announces a lockdown. And I was like, and I was so gutted, because everything had already been shot. I'd learnt my whole first dance. And then that lockdown just kept getting extended, and then the whole show got cancelled.
Shit, okay, I didn't know that.
And I was so gutted. And that's when I had jobs coming up in America, and I was like, I went to America for 4 months because I had other jobs there. But they also, with Dancing with the Stars, the year before that, they'd also cancelled the show, and then they cut that whole cast. And then so I was like, they're going to cut me. Like, I'm not going to get to do it again. Very thankfully, they kept me.
Cool.
And I was able to do it. But it was really cool because at the start, even the like producers and executive producers kind of were, I know that they had like a board of who they thought was going to win and stuff. And I was very low. Like I was kind of just like, get the kit, like the young female kind of tick box vibe. And then from the first week, which I didn't know until now, my votes were like through the roof.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Love it.
So the teenagers just really came
Yeah,
through, and
good.
it was so freaking fun, and I want to do it again.
That's so
Let me do it again.
so funny. That's such a funny thing. Like, what is it about that gets you so hyped up?
Oh, just like that one, learning to dance like that is something I've always wanted to do. And I had done like I hadn't done anything when I was younger, but when I moved up to Auckland, my schools then had dance, and I did like a term of dance, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I freaking loved it.
Yeah,
and just the thought of learning how to do that sounded really fun. And I've seen other people that have done it, and I was like, it just looks so fun.
Yeah.
And it was the hardest thing I've done in my life. Like, it was 11 weeks without a single day off. Not a single day. And we were training all day, every day. Like, it was nuts. Those show days were so long. You're in hair and makeup for hours.
Yeah.
But I would do it all again in a freaking heartbeat. It was so fun.
Was the fun part the dancing or the whole thing, including the production?
I think the whole thing.
Yeah, okay, cool. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, the dancing was fun, but also like our whole cast became like a family.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So we were all really
That
close.
helps, right?
Yeah, me and Brody Kane became really close. We were training in the same studio.
Cool.
And I think just the whole emotional roller coaster of it, like with people leaving, and when Eli left, that was such a massive thing, and we're all crying together and just like, it's so cool. And also to have like a set schedule was really weird for me because I'm self-employed. I do what I want. I wasn't used to having to get up insanely early and work like 11 hours straight of dancing and then go to bed, do it again the next day. Like, I wasn't used to
How long was the total production?
So the actual show itself was only 6 weeks, but we were in training for 11.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So you have like a 4-week lead in before anyone knows that you're on the show.
Yeah. Okay, so I told you at the start that we were going to do a little bit of the backstory, but then I got fascinated by some stuff I didn't know, so I just kept digging in. But I kind of want to know now, like, some of the work that you're currently doing, because we talked a little bit about it, and you've talked about going jobs in New York and all this sort of stuff. So, like, just like in general, like, as a quick overview, what is the sort of stuff that you do in general? Because it's pretty varied. Like, you say work, but what does that mean?
No, I hate getting asked the question of like, what do you do? And if I'm not with people that know me, I'll just be like, oh, I work in like film and TV. Like, because it's easier than being like,
But it's not helpful, which is why I want to dig in.
I know.
You know, because like for people who are like thinking, could I do this?
Yeah.
They don't understand like there's shitloads I know you have to do just knowing a little bit about it.
Yeah.
So like, what is it?
Okay. So, I mean, there's obviously like there's brand deal side of it, which is very the tiniest part of what I do.
It's quite transactional stuff as well.
And it's all, but it's also like I could do way more if I wanted to. I just decline most of them because I'm like, it's not.
Which is why I really wanted you on the show, because I can tell, like, because so many creators just do brand deals, and it's like, that's not a real business. Like, that's why I really wanted to hear this.
And that will fizzle out eventually.
Of
like, when you start posting so many ads and more ads than you are original posts, like, you're going to lose your audience. So I obviously book writer, so author, which I'm doing another one at the moment. Dyslexia, very hard. My biggest thing is speaking engagement. So I do a lot of corporate speaking.
Cool.
So when I go to New York, it's usually a mixture between if I'm filming stuff or if I'm speaking.
Okay, cool.
So in New York, I predominantly work with Kate Spade New York. I'm on their Social Impact Council with Taraji P. Henson.
Cool. Nice.
Last year, Cynthia Guttamotta, which is Lady Gaga's mum, was on it.
Wow.
And we got to speak as part of the UN General Assembly, and they do, and then kind of help advise where their social impact money is going to. So there's like that advisory, how do we help women's mental health globally, that I do over there. Heaps of corporate stuff here. Corporate speaking is probably my biggest source of income, or just like the way that I can live. Can we explain that a little bit just for people? Because like lots of people don't understand what that is, because it's not a world they're used to. But when you say corporate speaking, what are you saying? So a lot of corporate businesses will have conferences, and they'll have like development conferences, and it's usually them trying to tick the well-being box, or it's a lot of it will be like industry development, and then they add on like an inspirational motivational speaker, and that's usually me. So I will usually keynote like often the end of a conference, and it will be like a 45-minute presentation basically. And I think it's probably one of the things I'm best at. I'm better at doing that than a lot of other things. To the point like I can see a room and change my entire presentation in my head,
Cool.
get up and go.
Yeah.
I don't have to follow like a certain structure.
Yeah, nice.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
But what I started doing is that I started saying to corporates like, this, like all of my rates are done through my agency, which is Celebrity Speakers. But corporates know that if I can be like, I can charge you this much, and that means I can do this many schools for free, because I never have and never will charge a school, and I will do hundreds of schools. Like I do so many of them.
That was the thing you told me that I was like, fuck, you are so smart. Like I love that. It was like the thing when I walked away from meeting you, I was like, that alone was the thing that put you up here for me, like more than all the other stuff that you do, because like I think of it a lot too, like I charge what I charge in this business so we can do the things for free, like going to Blenheim, like you know, that costs us a fortune to come bring me and Janie down, but like I can only do that because of what we charge here. And so I loved hearing that for you. So sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make sure you knew that was, I think it's so smart, both from a business but also from you being able to achieve your why. Well, because I think if I had only done the corporate stuff and then it took over, that would and I love being able to do the corporate stuff, because there's nothing quite like having like middle-aged men in suits looking at you being like, what do you know? And then they start crying halfway through. And I've had some of my most impactful stories have come from these middle-aged men or these like CEOs in really high positions. But being able to tell them what I'm already telling their teenagers and being like, this is why. And it's cool being able to do both, because I can talk to the teenagers, but also I can talk in spaces that are hopefully ensuring that teenagers aren't losing their parents, because that's a really big thing, especially dads. Majority of our statistics are middle-aged employed men, and fronting that statistic corporately and being like, as a society, you guys and a lot of us have created this narrative that it's a youth suicide issue, and it's so important. But that's not the reality of this country. And it's a lot more comfortable for you to call this a youth issue. So to be in those spaces and then being able to be with the teenagers to hopefully help prevent that being the case later on, and the little tiny part that I play in that. So that kind of incorporates all of the speaking stuff. And then I can do community events for free and all that kind of stuff wherever I can. Film and TV is still a really big thing for me, directing, working on a couple of shows in the States, which I cannot talk about. But that's cool. So like, you don't have to talk about it, but like, what's your role in those? Like, what do you do as part of that process?
So it's a mixture between story producing and directing. So studying directing, but also knowing how to tell those kinds of stories in safe ways that both impact, stay true to the story, stay true to the experience of what it is to go through what the stories are being told like. So that's been really fun.
That's crazy.
I just got back from the States actually shooting. This wasn't in film and TV, but a campaign that it was the fastest thing I think I've ever done in my life. But this is probably like, this will show you the extent of what I do. First of all, I did this whole thing for free. This is an example of being able to do all this stuff so that I can do this. There's an incredible TikToker called Alex Warren. He's massive in America, and he has most beautiful story. And he released this song. When is this coming out?
Soon. Not for a while.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, not for a while.
Make sure I don't announce the campaign before it comes out.
I don't know, I'm just a talent.
Campaign's coming out next week.
Okay, cool. That's
awesome. So Alex Warren, he wrote this song called Change Your Mind, and it was for suicide prevention, and I heard the chorus and I was like, this is phenomenal. And so I posted a video to it. Alex followed me, and then he was like, I want to send you the whole song. So he sent me the song, and immediately I was like, there's a whole campaign in this. There's a whole campaign in this. So I messaged him and I was like, this is really out the gate. Like, how do you feel about like this campaign? Because the song is called It's Not Too Late to Change Your Mind. And that is a concept for people that are suicidal to know, no matter how, if you're literally on the edge of a bridge, it's not too late to change your mind. Has never been done like that before. Amazing. And he was like, yo, sounds sick, let's do it. He's like, I don't know how to do it though. And I was like, all good, I will come and I will do the whole thing for you.
That's cool.
And so within 4 hours, the flights were booked to LA for the week after, booked a crew, booked a studio, booked all the talent, like had people flying in from around America to come shoot this thing. And then like shot it all. I think it was literally like 5 days before I left to go to the States. Did it, shot it, did the whole thing in 3 days, flew back and then flew straight to Sydney to speak at a FIFA thing. Like it was nuts. But that for me, that's my impulsivity of like, there's a whole campaign. Let's freaking do it. And and it was so fun. I'm so excited
that.
when it eventually comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that kind of thing,
Yeah.
because I could see the impact in that,
Yeah.
being able and having the ability to go and do that for free alongside our organisation, Voices of Hope, which is what funded all the filming aspect of it.
Yeah.
But was that kind of thing is why I'm like, I love doing all the corporate stuff because it allows me to do these campaign stuff, which usually I would be in paid positions for that. But in situations like that, I don't care. Just let me get the message out there.
Just put it out. No, that's fucking awesome. Like, I love that concept. And that, like I said to you, I truly mean it. Like, when I heard you say that, I was like, you don't hear a lot of young people in your space talk like that. You know, they're either doing one or the other, which I can already tell because you told us earlier, but they're doing one or the other. It's like they are using the story to make money and whatever that might be, which is fine. People got their own motives, or they're doing it, or they're doing the other thing where they're trying to help. They're just trying to help. And then they can't make the impact because they don't. Because at the end of the day, we live in a world where money talks. And like you just need, like you can't do this stuff if you don't have the money to be able to do it, right? Yeah. Which I love. So that's awesome.
I do think in that though, like I actually think one of the most kind of like, I will say impactful moments for me and something that I knew was a thing. I'm very aware was a thing, but I was like, oh my gosh, was sitting at the airport with you and Joni and we're talking about social media.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like brand deals can do really well. Like even if you get a few, then you guys are both like, Jazz, it's because you're white.
Yeah, 100%.
And I was like, I know, and I'm so aware, like that side of privilege is so existent.
Yeah.
And I really hate that. Yeah. I hate that that's a thing.
Yeah.
But realizing the privileged position that I'm in to be able to do that work for free because I am able to like make a living from doing the other stuff, which again, most of it isn't from brand deals, but there's still that massive barrier. And it just like, it makes me so mad.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad that that's even still a thing.
It's so crazy, and it's even worse, I think, in the creator space because it's unregulated and unchecked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no one checks it.
Yeah.
You know, whereas at least in film and television, there's more associations and things that are there to support and stop that stuff. Yeah. It still happens. Yeah. But there's an eye over it, which makes it a lot harder to do, right? It's a lot harder to have these things. But in the creator space, there isn't an association for creators. They're not part of like these organizations like SAG and all that sort of stuff that help support them, which is, and then there's like the other thing that's happening at the moment in that space is that even like some talent agencies and some things keep everyone in the dark because it's easier if everyone stays in the dark because then they don't have to have this difficult conversation. And so like, I'm a bit of a rebel when it comes to it and probably say things I shouldn't say about the industry. But I think it takes like people to start those conversations and for creators to know that like there are other ways. And like, you know, so we had that conversation of Joni. She left her agency and she went off and goes, you know what, Sam, I want to try do this myself for a bit. Her very first deal she got on her own was 4 times her largest deal that she had with her agency. Because she was able to speak for herself and not have any bias because she didn't realize she has, you know, like just being able to walk in there and get it what she wanted. That. So good. And, you know, like everyone was giving her shit like, oh, your content's too extreme. Like you're talking about peeing on your husband and whatever it might be. And like,
that was a video. That was
a video, right? Like crazy. And so most people would be like, you've screwed up your brand. You're never going to get deals. And then she got a deal 4 times higher because she's like, no, this is the value I offer you. Like people love me. Like people, my audience love me and will do what I, you know, like will believe in me if I believe in your product. And that's it. That's what social media influencers brand deals is all about. That's the whole game. So you're right. It's a sad world that it happens. Do I think it'll improve? Yeah, of course. Like just like it did in TV and film, it improved and all sorts. And in the music industry, the same thing happened. There's still long ways to go, but like everything takes time. But yeah, you're right. It's good that you see that because like, and I think even if you didn't see it, you were already doing the thing, which was I do this stuff so I can do the stuff that is my why, which I think is cool. I love it. So, okay. Speaking, film and television, brand deals. What else do you do?
What else do I do?
Tell me more about the foundation and
Voices of Hope.
Yeah, and
it's a big part of what I do.
Yeah, because like that's so different to everything else actually. Because it's there we go.
What is that? Oh my gosh, that was made in like 2018. That has not
Crazy.
changed.
It doesn't even look like you.
That's the front cover of my... Dang.
Yeah.
Hey, I forgot that existed. For those of you who can't see, my website is currently up on the screen that I didn't even know was a thing. I reckon that was probably like an ADHD impulse, create this whole website in a night and then never did anything with it.
Oh, sounds like my website.
God damn. Anyway.
Yeah, tell us about the
Voices of Hope.
Yeah.
Myself and Jen created this. Basically, the idea was that when we were both going through it and we were in and out of psych wards or just in massive struggles as teenagers, we were constantly looking for other people's stories. There's a big difference between a psychologist telling you that you can get through it compared to then seeing someone who has got through it.
Yeah.
But back then, it wasn't being talked about. And I think we had just cracked open the conversation around depression and anxiety, and that was just kind of starting. But mine and Jen's experiences were not being talked about, or like those situations were not being talked about at all. And so we decided to kind of mix our passion for that storytelling aspect and like obviously with mental health and create an organization that was purely designed to tell lived experience stories. And we wanted to be able to do that from any and all walks of life, so that no matter what it is people were going through, they were able to find something that they related to know that they're not alone and that hope is real. And it's been amazing. Like the journey's been amazing. Like I literally was still in film school. I think our first like maybe 6-7 campaigns were done when I was in film school with my film school student friends. And just to see the growth from there, like we've now got campaigns that ran across both TVNZ and MediaWorks, which is unheard of, like to do both of them. So it really kind of, that's the thing that allowed us to have coffee with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and we won an award from the Queen, and like, it's ridiculous. But the purpose has always been there, and our purpose is so strong with Jen and I. So that's kind of, we do the big campaigns, which we now kind of externally source agencies to be able to help us do.
What's, like in terms of a day-to-day, however you want to look at it, your responsibilities in that now? Like, because you're obviously super busy flying off to LA and doing random things, but like, what's your day-to-day input into it?
So I do most of my input is in the creative direction of things. So Jen is the general manager, and she's very good at, like, she runs the organization. We found that my strongest ability was one, to be able to bring people into knowing what Voices of Hope was by the exposure that I was getting from doing everything else. But also my brain operates very creatively. So like that whole Change Your Mind campaign that we've just done, that was all for Voices of Hope. So that'll be going out through them soon. Amazing. But so it's very much like, here's creative direction, here's an idea, let's go do it. And because I'm very aware, I'm very good at the creative idea and I'm so bad at the follow through. So if I didn't have Jen, every idea that I had would just stay an idea. Like, that's the reality of that.
Absolutely.
And so being able to have like the team of people to be like, oh, we should do this. And then they do it. And then they've also got their own creative, like the Behind the Jersey campaign, which was a sports campaign, was fully them. My input is the kind of creative direction.
I really like hearing that too, because like, I think a lot of people don't understand to do things at that scale, or to do things that are huge and successful. Like, it often takes a whole team to be able to pull these things off, right? Like, like I'm the same. Like Alicia, who works for us, has been with me for 11 years now. All through my hotels career, she was always my number two. She was my person who would do all my stuff, right? Like, I'd come up with a crazy idea, and Alicia would wait a week and be like, "You still got that idea? Yeah, okay. Well, let's go and execute on it then, and then she'll get it done." And now we've got a whole team of people who do that. And it's the same with Joni, right? Like, it's a lot of people will see Joni at the face of our stuff and be like, "Oh, Joni's so brilliant," which she is, and don't take away. But she'll tell you, like, I can only do it because I got a team around me. Like, if I didn't have the team around me, we wouldn't be able to do and execute on what we do. And I think that for a lot of people who are trying to execute something like this, like, they're trying to do it on their own, which at the start, I get it. Like,
we had to do it on our own.
You had to do it on your own,
We had $50 budgets for so long. Like,
but you had each other, which I think is important too, right? And you grinded at it. But then by the sounds of it, well, because I've seen the stuff that you've done, there's no possible way you can do that on your own. There's just no possible way. You need teams behind you supporting you, right?
And sometimes what I've found is that if you don't have the financial ability to get a team at this stage, which is totally fine. What then the next thing that sells is your vision.
Yeah.
If you can sell vision, if you can sell impact, if you can get people on board, people will volunteer their time for something that they believe will make an impact. And so you don't necessarily have to have those big budgets at the start. Obviously, it helps significantly later on, but not everyone has access to that right away. And so that's why, like, knowing your why, and if you can sell an idea, then people will get on board with that, and then you can grow from there.
Love it. What are some of the things that, like, where you're at now, how have things changed in the way, say from 2020 to 2023, how's your messaging evolved and grown and what you do? Like, how have you evolved as a person and what you say?
I think I've continued to evolve. My message has continued to evolve away from the savior mindset. I think that's been the biggest thing.
Cool.
And what I really love is when people come up to me now, and it will happen every single day consistently, is people being like, you saved my life, and being able to say to them, no, like, all I did was present hope. You were the one that chose to stay. You were the one that did the work. You were the one that asked for help. And I think that is so much more empowering than being like, I saved your life, because I didn't. I didn't. And I think I really love that as a message, because I think that right now it's so easy for people to be like, oh, this song saved my life. This artist saved my life. This actor saved my life. And that just takes away all of your part that you had to play in doing that. Like, all these people did was give you reason to stay or give you something to hold on to. But they didn't do any of the work. You did. And for me, that's been, and people will be like, no, but like, without you, I wouldn't be here. I was like, no, there's other, like, you found hope. There was something in you that was searching for that. And there can absolutely be things where it's just perfect timing when someone was going to make that decision and something pops up. But still, in that moment, they had the decision to stay or not stay, and they chose to. So I think that's what's really developed and has helped me kind of, I guess, be where I am now, and just be so, like, I'm so chill about it in the way that even when it comes to posting on social media, I don't know when my best posting time is. I don't care. And it's very different from most influencers. I don't post at a certain time. I don't like, oh my gosh, I need to only do this content or anything like that. I'm not like that, because I'm like, if I have an idea and I feel like this is a message that's going to hit someone, I'm going to do it now. I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to do it. But yeah, I think that's what's significantly changed. But also, I think a big thing that's changed is my ability to now be able to just be myself in a lot of it, because for so long I was only known as this real serious, like, the mental health girl, which is why I then created my second TikTok account, which was just me being an absolute egg and my personality. And people started commenting, being like, oh my God, I didn't know you had a personality. And I was like, are you serious? Like, oh my gosh. And so now having this balance of like, I am serious and I am that person, but I am also this whole other person that is just like fun and stupid and dances in a like Teletubby costume and like all of that stuff. And that account went bloody nuts as well. So like they both kind of, you know, but yeah, I think just knowing that I don't just have to be this one niche, which is so important, because creators, so and it's all the conversation in the creator space is find your niche, find your niche. But if you do that, niches are great at the start, sure, but then you think that has to be the only thing that you are. And it's not.
No, it's not.
And it just dehumanizes it a little bit, I feel like. So being able to just be like, this is who I am. Like, you'll get me lying in bed freaking doing whatever. Like, I don't care. Half of the time, I don't have makeup on. My hair, I just got out of bed. Like, I literally don't care. Okay. And that's, again, a big change from earlier. I probably would have cared a bit more back then. But now I'm like, meh.
You've matured, right, in that space. I totally agree with you, actually. Like, My thinking's the same when it comes to content, that like, I understand why you have a niche. Like, niches, if you've only got so much effort to put out content and you want the biggest bang for your buck, then stay in the niche. Yeah. It makes, I get it, because the same people will keep coming back and then you'll more likely grow faster. But like, we talk about this a lot on this podcast, is like the, what do we call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Fan service, fan acquisition. I went blank there for a second. And the fan acquisition content, I would say, is the niche stuff. And like, if you look at ours, like Joni doing presentations to me, that's our niche. That's our fan acquisition. But I said to her, the only reason why we're growing so fast is because we do so much fan service. that the people who come in from this will watch all this, they start to build trust with us, and then they watch this and they're like, I'll do whatever you say in that journey, like whatever you ask me to, I'll do it. And like often like what we say to clients as well is like, let us just do stuff, find the niche first, because don't try to pretend you've got one, like let's find one. But you don't need every video to be 6 million. Like actually, like I love it when we get all these videos that are like, it might be like 40K, but there's like 150 comments and everyone is in on the lore. Like they all get it, right? Like, and so I agree with you that I don't think it should be all that. I think actually you're doing your audience a disservice if you're just playing the part. It's like that Yasin guy who does the belly fat shake. You know, like that's all he does. You know, and I was like, there's no depth to that. Like, I mean, he's doing well. He's at a different level, but like I think by having I think you're right. Like if you're going to go in, if you're a creator and you want to do all the things, do all the things. You look at Joni as well with her own personal content. She did none of the P talk prior to doing the Attention Seeker. She was like real polished, like real like I'm a young girl going through life and this is my thing. And you know, she built her niche off the, you know, what she did with her mum's wedding and all that sort of stuff. But then soon as she got tired creatively, like she was coming to me like, I just don't know what to do. I don't even want to post my normal one anywhere. I love doing Attention Seekers because I can be me. I was like, just do both. And then it took off again. So it's good. It's cool to hear that. What I really liked about your growth is, and because you're still so young, especially when you're sitting next to me, but like
sitting next to you more often. I feel old when I'm out and about.
You're still so fucking young. But it's the maturity of that. Like I really love what you said about I went from the saver mentality to I just do hope-fueled sort of stories and I allow you to be your own savior. I think it's cool. Like
it's so much more empowering that way.
So much better.
And I think the world's got enough people trying to be saviors.
And
it just doesn't, at the end of the day, that person isn't there with you at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're in the depth of it, you are. And I think it's so much more empowering to know that you have the ability to fight without these people there. One of the girls in our team, Vanessa, we have a session every Friday from 3:30 to 5. We all sit in the lounge down there and we do a learning thing, right? We're all learning something about content creation or whatever it is. And Vanessa wrote, the last 2 weeks, the guys have had to write a post for LinkedIn about anything they wanted to, but it followed our structure as a way of learning how to write. And Vanessa, our crazy Latina in the group who's real passionate about everything, she wrote this post and the opening line was, I am not your savior. And like the rest of the post, you'll have to read it. I'm not going to do it justice. We all had chills at the end of it because like essentially what she said is like the same thing you were saying but from like the other side of the coin, which is it's okay to just cry. Like it's okay to just be sad. Like you don't have to, like, because she was talking about how everyone talked to her about she's a warrior and she's so strong because she got through all the adversity she's been through. And she's like, I didn't get through. I had no choice. I was just there. I just existed and I came out the other side, but I was crying. I was upset. And yeah, I'm out through it now. But like, I didn't choose to have that. I just lived it. And I was like, and that made me think, and it resonates with what you were saying. Like, you're not someone's savior, right? Everyone has their path. You just got to make your choice on your way through it. That's cool. I think it's a good place to end. Me?
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank
Cheers.
you.